I'll be honest, I never thought I'd end up writing something like this. I always thought we had a pretty solid marriage. We've been together for 7 years, married for 4. No kids, just us, our dog, and a shared mortgage. Things were good. Or at least I thought they were. It started when her car broke down about 6 months ago. Instead of rushing to buy a new one or lease something, she said she'd stick to rideshares to get around, especially since she worked from home most days anyway. At first, it made sense, cheaper than a new car, and she only needed to go out a couple times a week. But then she started going out more often. Errands. Coffee with friends. Clear my head drives. And she always used the same Uber driver, a guy named Kevin. I only knew because she mentioned him a lot. Like, too much. At first, I didn't think much of it. She said he was just a funny, talkative guy and she preferred someone she felt safe with. I even met him once. Dude looked average as hell, mid-30s, some bad tribal tattoo peeking out of his sleeve. Nothing threatening. He even waved to me when I opened the door once while she was heading out. Looking back now? That was the first red flag I should have seen. But that's just the beginning. So yeah, everything seemed normal. She started dressing nicer for her errands. Makeup when she used to hate it. Tight jeans. Low-cut tops. When I asked about it, she'd roll her eyes and say, "It's just nice to feel good about myself again, is that a crime?" I didn't want to seem controlling, so I let it go. Then one Friday night about a month ago, I got off work early. Like, way early, my boss let us go before noon after a major project wrapped up. I didn't tell her because I figured I'd surprise her. Dumb idea, in hindsight. Her phone was still at home, charging. Weird, since she never left without it. I assumed she was walking the dog or something. But then I noticed the Uber app open on her phone, recent trip in progress. She was on her way back from somewhere. Curious, I opened the app. Pickup, some apartment complex in a different part of town. Drop off, our place. Driver, Kevin, of course. I decided to meet her outside. I waited by the curb, just far enough to not be seen until they pulled up. And man, I wish I hadn't. Kevin's car pulled in, but they didn't notice me. That's when I saw her, my wife, straddling him in the back seat. Not just kissing. They were full-on hooking up. In broad daylight. In our neighborhood. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. They both freaked out when they saw me. She scrambled off him, yanking her top down. Kevin just froze like a deer in headlights. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. I just stood there, watching this whole disgusting scene unfold. She jumped out of the car and screamed, "It's not what it looks like." Classic. I just turned around and walked back into the house. And that, Reddit, is when my world started to crumble. I walked into the house numb. She followed me and 2 minutes later, slamming the door behind her like I had done something wrong. "Can we just talk?" she yelled, already starting the waterworks. I didn't respond. I sat down on the couch, staring at her, waiting for, I don't even know. An apology? An explanation? Instead, I got a full-blown performance. I was just comforting him. He's been going through a lot with his mom in the hospital. I leaned in and things got misinterpreted. It didn't mean anything. I asked, deadpan, "So straddling a guy in the back seat of his car, that's comforting now?" She actually scoffed. "Don't twist things, you know how dramatic you can be." That's when it hit me, she wasn't going to admit to anything. Not even a shred of honesty. She was going to lie, deflect, and flip the blame onto me like she always did when caught in something. I asked her straight up, "How long has this been going on?" Cue the tears again. She shouted, "Why are you interrogating me like a criminal? I'm your wife." I repeated the question. She refused to answer and instead went on a rant about how I hadn't been present, how she felt alone lately, how Kevin listened to her. Kevin. The Uber driver. Apparently, Kevin had become her unpaid therapist, with benefits. She finally admitted they'd been talking for about 3 months. Just talking. Right. At this point, I told her I was done. Not just done with the conversation, done with us. And she lost it. Screaming. Throwing a pillow at me. Saying I was overreacting. Accusing me of being emotionally abusive for not trusting her. This woman was unhinged. I didn't say much. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and started packing a bag. I needed to get out for my own sanity. The worst part? As I zipped my suitcase, I heard her in the living room on the phone, calling Kevin. Saying, he's being crazy again. Right. Crazy for catching his wife hooking up in a cab. I crashed on my buddy Ryan's couch that night. He's the kind of friend who doesn't ask questions until you're ready to talk. I needed that silence just to process. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls. Long texts. Half angry, half tearful. She went from "I made a mistake" to "you're ruining our marriage over nothing" in the same paragraph. I ignored them. But something was eating at me. A gut feeling. I knew what I saw, but I also knew my wife. If she had been cheating that publicly, there had to be more under the surface. I borrowed Ryan's car and drove back to the house while she was at work or wherever the hell she claimed to be. I needed proof. Not just for closure, but because if this blew up into a legal mess, I didn't want her twisting the story. I went through her drawers. Found nothing but receipts and expired lipstick. Her phone? Password changed. But her gym bag? Jackpot. Tucked inside her side pocket was a second phone. A burner. I almost laughed. She'd gone full spy movie. It was unlocked. Rookie move. The messages? Pages of chats with Kevin. Flirty at first. Then full-on sexting. Pics. Plans. One message read, "Can't wait for our little getaway weekend. I'll tell him it's a work conference." I felt sick. She was going to take a weekend trip with this guy while lying to my face? And here's the kicker, they'd already been on one. I found a selfie of them together in a cabin. The same weekend she told me she was helping her sister move. She wasn't even clever. She reused the same excuses she used for her own family. I took photos of everything. Sent them to my own email. I wasn't just getting a divorce anymore. I was going to burn this bridge with style. I didn't sleep that night. I was bouncing between rage, heartbreak, and cold, calculated planning. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind, if she wanted to make a fool out of me behind my back, I'd show her I wasn't the idiot she thought I was. I started with a text. "We need to talk. Meet me at the house at 6. She replied almost instantly. "Are you finally ready to be an adult and work on this marriage?" Classic. She cheats, I catch her, and somehow I need to grow up. At 5:45, I parked my car down the street and waited. 6 o'clock on the dot, guess who pulls up? Kevin's Uber. She got out of the front seat, kissed him goodbye, yes, even in our driveway, and started walking toward the front door. I walked up behind her and said, "Hey. Forgetting something?" She froze. Then spun around, fake smile and all. "Oh. I didn't know you'd be here already." "Oh, I've been here. Watching," I said. Kevin panicked and started backing the car out, but I stepped in front of it and said loudly, "Mind sticking around, Kev? You're gonna want to hear this too." He rolled his eyes but stopped. I pulled out my phone and hit play on a voice message I recorded from her burner phone. Her and Kevin planning another secret weekend in disgusting detail. She lost it. Started screaming, "You went through my stuff? That's a violation of privacy." Kevin was sweating bullets, trying to pretend he didn't know she was married. I looked at him and said, "Save it, Romeo. Your texts start with, 'How's the husband?'" She slapped the phone out of my hand, started crying, screaming, wailing about how I never listened to her, how she needed to feel wanted, how I left her lonely. I turned to Kevin and said, "You can keep her. But you might want to check the group chat she's got with 2 other drivers in your network." That was a bluff. But judging by the way his face dropped, it hit. She lost her mind completely. Hysterical yelling turned to begging. Then rage again. Then tears. Me? I just stood there, calm as ever, and handed her a manila envelope. Inside? Divorce papers. "Next time you want a ride," I said, "call someone who doesn't wear a wedding ring." I walked away without looking back. But trust me, it's far from over. After handing her the divorce papers and walking away like something out of a slow-mo movie scene, I thought that would be the end of the chaos. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The very next day, I get a call from her mother. I hadn't spoken to her parents in months, partially because my wife constantly complained about how toxic and judgmental they were. So imagine my surprise when her mom calls me sobbing, saying, "Why are you destroying your marriage over one little mistake?" One little mistake. Apparently, my wife told them I had been emotionally neglectful, that I pushed her into someone else's arms, and get this, that I hit her emotionally. Whatever that means. She painted herself as this poor, broken woman who was desperately trying to make her marriage work while her cold, distant husband spent all his time being paranoid and controlling. I couldn't believe it. I asked her mom if she wanted to see the text messages, hear the recordings, or read the messages I pulled from her secret Instagram DMs. Her mom said, and I quote, "No, I don't want to see anything that makes me think worse of my daughter. So basically, keep your facts to yourself. We've chosen our narrative." That night, her dad called me too. A little less emotional, but still condescending as hell. He tried to guilt-trip me, talking about how marriage is about forgiveness and a real man fights for his wife. I replied, "A real wife doesn't screw her Uber driver in the back seat while her husband's paying the bills." Click. End of conversation. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Which, I've learned, is the calm before the next hurricane. Sure enough, 3 days later, I got served. She's contesting the divorce, claiming emotional cruelty, and is asking for spousal support. Yes, you read that right. The woman who cheated on me multiple times, lied to my face, and turned her parents against me now wants my money. You can't make this stuff up. But don't worry. I'm not backing down. So, after the emotional warfare with her parents and the absurd request for spousal support, I knew I needed backup. Real backup. I hired a no-nonsense divorce attorney who came highly recommended for handling messy, high-conflict splits. Let's call him Mark. Mark doesn't smile much, but man, does he know his stuff. I handed over everything: screenshots of her DMs, GPS logs from the Uber app, thank you, shared devices, and even a few recordings where she basically admitted she'd deserve to feel sexy again. Mark reviewed it all, then looked up at me and said, dead serious. This isn't just a divorce. This is a full-on strategic extraction. I liked him immediately. Now here's where things went from bad to insane. Mark filed a subpoena for her phone records. And guess what? My sweet, lying wife wasn't just hooking up with one Uber driver. Oh no. She had been rotating through 3 different ones. Apparently, the original guy, let's call him Jason, was just her main squeeze. But there were others. 2 more drivers who she'd met by requesting rides at odd hours when she knew I was working late. One of them even dropped her off at a hotel 20 minutes from our home during a weekend I thought she was visiting her sister. You know what else Mark found? Venmo payments. She was paying some of these guys tips with captions like, "For the fun ride winking face. Best driver ever face blowing a kiss. Extra service smiling face with horns." It's like she wanted to get caught. And the final twist? One of the drivers had a girlfriend who saw my wife getting into his car late at night and suspected something was going on. That woman ended up messaging me anonymously saying, "I think your wife is seeing my boyfriend." She was right. At this point, I didn't even feel pain. I just felt numb. It was like my life had become some trashy soap opera. Mark said we had more than enough to shut down her spousal support claim and hit her with infidelity as the core cause of the divorce. But even better, he suggested we go after her for court costs. So yeah, things are escalating. And fast. After my lawyer, Mark, laid out the mountain of evidence, we agreed it was time for one last confrontation, this time with all the cards on the table. I didn't want to play games anymore. I was done giving her space to lie, twist things, or gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. So I set up a meeting at our place and invited her over, claiming we needed to talk logistics. She showed up, smug as ever, wearing this ridiculous designer outfit like she was going to brunch with her fake influencer friends. As soon as she sat down, I handed her a folder. Inside were screenshots of her Venmo transactions, timestamps from her Uber rides, and phone logs that matched up with all her little errands. She flipped through them silently, then looked up and said, "What, are you stalking me now? Is that what this is?" I didn't flinch. I told her flat out. You lied. Repeatedly. You cheated. With not one, but 3 different men. This isn't stalking. It's called getting the truth you refused to give me. And that's when she went nuclear. She started pacing around, yelling about how I never supported her emotionally, how she felt lonely, and, get this, how technically she didn't sleep with 2 of them because oral doesn't count in her messed up logic. She even tried to spin it like she was the victim. I was trying to find myself. I'm not some stepford wife who just sits at home. I almost laughed. This from the same woman who used to guilt me for not spending enough time with her, only to sneak off in someone else's back seat. I stayed calm. I told her I was moving forward with the divorce, that she'd be hearing from my lawyer, and that I had no intention of giving her assent. And then, out of nowhere, she screamed. You won't survive without me. Like I was supposed to fall to my knees and beg her to stay? Nope. She stormed out, slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall, and texted me an hour later. You'll regret this. Spoiler alert, I don't. Not even a little. But the fallout wasn't over yet. Just when I thought I had uncovered everything, every lie, every betrayal, someone slid into my DMs with a message that changed the game again. It was from a guy named Chris. I didn't recognize the name at first, but he quickly cleared that up. Hey, man. I'm one of the Uber drivers your wife used to ride with. I think you deserve to know the full story. Turns out, Chris was the first Uber driver she started seeing. Before the one I caught her with. They'd apparently met months before everything blew up, and their thing fizzled out because, in his words, she was too dramatic and manipulative. But here's the kicker. He said she didn't just cheat, she was also using his car to meet up with other guys. She'd ask him to drive her across town to a friend's place, and then hook up with someone else, sometimes while making Chris wait outside like a personal chauffeur. Chris said he didn't realize she was married until recently when she mentioned my name in passing during a fight they had. That's when he started connecting the dots. I asked him why he was telling me all this now. Because you're not the only one she used, man. I figured you deserved to know just how deep the rabbit hole goes. And the rabbit hole did go deep. She had lied to everyone. Manipulated multiple people. Played the victim in every situation. Even her friends were starting to distance themselves after she tried to drag them into her mess by saying they were the ones encouraging her to explore her options. I felt sick all over again. Not because I still loved her, those feelings had long since withered, but because I realized how many layers of deception there had been. She hadn't just stepped out on our marriage. She burned the entire foundation and built a circus on top of the ashes. I sent Chris a thank you message and saved all the screenshots. You never know when you'll need more receipts. It's been 6 months since I filed for divorce. It's official now. I'm free. When I look back at everything that happened, the lies, the manipulation, the sheer chaos of it all, I still feel a wave of disbelief. It was like living in a psychological thriller, only it was my marriage. My life. I moved out of the apartment first. Let her stew in the mess she created. I found a quiet 1-bedroom near work, nothing fancy, but peaceful. I started hitting the gym again. Took up photography. Traveled solo for the first time. I started sleeping through the night again, not worrying about who she was texting or what she was hiding. She tried reaching out twice after the divorce was finalized. First message, I hope we can at least be friends. Second, I miss the life we had. I didn't reply. Because the truth is, I don't miss any of it. I don't miss the lies. I don't miss the gaslighting. I don't miss being made to feel crazy for noticing things that were actually happening. And if you're reading this, going through something similar, let me leave you with a few hard-earned lessons. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore patterns. One bad day is fine. Weeks of secrecy, defensiveness, and strange behavior? Not fine. Cheaters lie. A lot. Don't waste your energy trying to decode their contradictions. Get your facts, protect yourself, and make decisions based on reality, not hope. You can recover. I thought this betrayal would break me. It didn't. It just revealed who she really was and who I could become without her. Silence speaks volumes. The most powerful move I made wasn't yelling or seeking revenge. It was walking away and rebuilding my life without her. The person I am now is so different from the guy who wrote part 1 of this story. That guy was confused, hurt, trying to make sense of a nightmare. Today? I'm at peace.